Hey guys, hello. Slowly but surely we're completing opening repertoire for black, especially against this side seemingly bad variations by white. And today I'm gonna teach you how to play against Sokolsky or Polish or Orangutan opening by white. So let's get started. It starts with first move b4 by white. As usual, I'm just not going to give you like one variation. I'm gonna give you like my favorite line and the one that consists of most of the tactics and like interesting attacking plans. But at the same time, I'm just gonna give you like three, maybe even four different approaches, so everyone will be able to find what he likes and what he enjoys with. So after b4, I can show you c6. I remember even from my childhood when I analyzed this opening with my brother, we used to fight against Sokolsky opening with this, let's say, Caracan approach c6. Behind c6 is a very interesting idea, is to play queen b6. So when they play bishop b2, you play queen b6, threatening pawn on b4. And now when they play a3, you immediately challenge this pawn structure. If they play c3, if they play anything like that, it's going to be good for black because you're going to be the one who's going to get like full initiative. And who knows Sokolsky, and assumingly play guys who play b4, they will know their stuff. They should go with c4. You play a takes b4, and very interesting opening move that goes with a trick is c5. Very interesting move c5 because you can't take by queen, because after a takes b4, boom, your queen on c5 is threatened just like your rook. So that's why you have to avoid, and after c5 you gotta avoid that with queen c7. A takes b4, you trade the rooks off, play knight a6 threatening the pawn, queen b3 better than bishop c3, you challenge these pawns with b6, d4 and e5. I'd say that the position is unclear after e5, but I also have to say that if white plays pretty solid in terms of like keeping the center intact, like e3, knight f3, afterwards bishop e2, short castles, position is usually very equal. So whoever likes to play equalish type of positions, let's go with this one, c6. So once again, the c6 doesn't have much in common with Caracan, like because you go with the queen b6. But on the other hand, it very much resembles on that opening because you pretty much play like equal type of positions. Who likes to play King's Indian, he should be going with knight f6. Because after bishop b2, g6, there are players who will take, and in that case, b4 pawn is hanging, and it's a worse version of the Larsen's opening when they play b3 and bishop takes f6. So they will most likely play c4, getting some space on the queen side. You play bishop g7, knight f3, and short castle. This is King's Indian approach. And by the way, afterwards you can just go with d6, knight bd7, or d6, e5, knight c6, knight e7, that depends on you. And you go with a typical King's Indian approach, kind of mortal plot attack, depending whether they want to play with e3, with d4, or just g3. But basically you just play King's Indian type of game. And finally, I'll give you one more line before I teach you one of my favorite and probably most attacking approach against Sokolsky opening. It's d5. d5 I used to play in lots of games, and after bishop b2, I used to play a very interesting move that my dad showed me once. It's queen d6, threatening pawn on b4 and building up a strong center with e5. Although I believe that was in Slovenia, Portoroj, like 15 years ago, I played bishop to g4. So if you don't like queen d6, because that queen might look a little bit, like misplaced in some of the variations, You can go with this early Trompowsky approach, early bishop g4. You develop your bishop, and you wait for them to see what are they going to do. Nowadays, when I play bullet and somebody plays b4 against me, I usually go with this line. I usually go with this because in bullet, I just hope that they will make a pre-move and they'll take their queen for free and do one. I'm joking, but basically I like bishop g4. Bishop g4 is aimed against early h3, bishop h5, g4, bishop g6 because you challenge this pawn structure with h5. Having pawns on h3 and g4 and on b4 really looks a little bit weak for white, and I like black's game after h5. Those who like to do like knight f3, then I just go with knight d7, and I'm pretty much focused on building up a strong center with e5. That is about to happen, by the way, for all of you who like to play against and with a better pawn structure. You can consider, just like in Trompowsky, taking on f3, and whether they play e takes or g takes, for the rest of the game you should tend to like exchange as many pieces as possible and play a game like this. Although, let me just show you my game from Slovenia like 15 years ago. It was tournament game. At that time I was a young IM, and I played against a guy around 2200 who was pretty much experienced player of b4 variations. He played e3, I played e5. I apologize. That's what I remember about this game, that when I played e5, I was like very happy because I built up a strong center, and I was threatening bishop. I actually threatened to take the pawn on b4. After bishop e2, bishop d6, I would rather defend my strong center with bishop d6 than taking that pawn on b4. So when they play like a3, I just played knight g and f6, d3, and queen e7. I remember when I prepared for that game, I was like very happy with a compact pawn structure for black, challenged by some a5 like I did in the game. After b4 castle c4, I just relied on this ideal flexible pawn structure. So look at my pieces. I don't have problems with any of my pieces, and on the other hand, I have like a perfect flexible pawn structure from black's point of view. Let me just show you what happened in the game, but I just have to say that I'm fully satisfied with the quality of the black's game here. I want to put this rook on e8, preferably placing my rook on d8 and going with some sort of e4, organizing the attack. My opponent played a4, I took on c4, came up with check, and decided to break the center. Nowadays, if I played a game, I wouldn't play it too differently. He played knight e4, I captured, took on b5, played knight c5, and took by knight. With this king on f1 being kind of exposed in the center, undeveloped rook on h1, I have to say that I prefer white's position a little bit. After f3, I played knight c5, g3, played rook a d8. Maybe there are some other moves, but I don't want to go now deeper into this game. I just want to show you that I was like very satisfied with my position here. I was threatening like rook takes d4 because queen was hanging. He played rook h to d1. I played knight a6, and he made mistake. Probably he was supposed to take and to play slightly worse position, but I like my game. I like a very solid pawn structure. I like my bishop on b4, safer king. My opponent made mistake, and for all of you who like to work on tactics, let's go guys, stop the video and find the tactics. I played rook takes d4, and when he took by pawn, I played knight f4, giving this discovered check, and queen basically takes the queen on e2. Just like you see after bishop e2, bishop g4, I showed you what to do against knight f3, I showed you what to play against h3 and g4, and finally, and probably the most solid approach, is g3. You play knight f6, bishop g2, e6, don't forget you threaten the pawn on b4, that's what I like about e6 or e5 moves, a3, a5, c6, knight b7, bishop d6, castles, and rook e8. Eventually, you should go with e5 and e4 possibly, but here we just have to admit that black's game should be absolutely fine. So for all of you who like equal type of games, c6 is nice. Who like King's Indian, knight f6, g6, bishop g7, typical King's Indian approach. For you guys who like playing against the same way against the ready opening, this one really looks good, and who like to play like flexible type of positions, this is fine. And finally, let me just show you how do I treat this opening, how do I usually play it nowadays. Don't forget, I just showed you how to actually treated this opening like 15 years ago, but let me just show you how would I treat it nowadays. I would play e5. So if you ever have to fight against me and you guys get paired against me in the tournament, so if you intend to play b4, expect e5. I'll kill you. So after b4, e5, just like you see, my bishop on b4 threatens the pawn on b4. They can play bishop b2, which is the main line, or they can just defend. A good friend of mine, he was a guy who really preferred this Orangutan opening by white, and he played b5. I'm not a big fan of this move. It just looks a little bit like interesting at first glance, but after b5, bishop b2, knight e7, knight f6, bishop d6, castles, you just treat this in the most flexible fashion. You want to play c6, rook e8, queen e7. I'll show you a game where the guy tried d4, and showing you a game of some German guys where black went with e4, c6, bishop c7, and look at his plan. There is like way deeper plan behind bishop c7 move that you can imagine. So he went with like rook e8, knight f8, knight g6, transposed this knight onto the king side, and after knight g4, queen f6, went with knight h2. You know that we like to attack, and that's how black won the game. I very much like this approach, and this is what I usually do in my blitz games nowadays, because nobody plays b4 against me in tournament games anymore. In case of c5, bishop c5, knight takes, rook e8. I found a game by grandmaster from Poland, Sokolsky, who played it back to 2016. His opponent played bad move d4, and after bishop b4, he blundered piece, knight d2, knight e4. But in case you anyways, for example, go with bishop f6 and then knight c3, just d4, exposed king in the center, and strong bishop pair in action behind, rook on e8 and the queen on f6. And in case of bishop b2, just go with d4 and once again take advantage of weak and exposed king on e1 and weak pawn on e3. You don't want to go with d3, queen d7, rook a to d8, but you've got like all and very clear prospects to attack on the king side, because there is no knight on the king side. That's what happens after b5. After a3, our plans are not too different. So you play d5, bishop b2, d6, knight f6, knight d7, c4, and c6. For all of you guys who are willing to play something like very easy and at the same time good, that you feel like you have white pieces because you have a strong center, this is a good approach, and this is like very flexible approach by black. I'll show you a game between one guy who's almost GM strength from Spain. His opponent played bishop e2, played the same old approach, and when you play e4, you just kick this knight away and get ready for a strong attack. This knight definitely doesn't belong on h4. He played bishop h3, played knight g4. This guy captured, brought his queen on g5, and afterwards you can go with h5, h4. You can go with f5, f4. Black just has a very clear prospect and great attacking chances on the king side. After like a3, d5, bishop b2, bishop d6, knight f3, knight d7, c4, c6, there is a guy who played d4. I already showed you with the b5 that in previous game white played e5, and after knight d2, this is like French approach, just reversed colors. So take a look at this. I'm gonna flip up the board. Just when you play like e6, d5, then you play knight f6, knight d7. Here you just do the same, e3, d4, knight f3, knight e2. A weird bishop on b2. And how do we play against this? Regular plan, as we've seen in that game of German masters, where black went with knight f8, knight g6, castles, rook e8, and now he went with pretty much the same idea, h5 and h4. When the guy played a4, h4, and a typical way of improving your knight and going with knight h7, followed by knight g5, and breaking onto the king side with f5. This is Grandmaster Kuzubov, a strong Ukrainian GM who crushed another GM, Bernatsky. The game was played in Ukraine 2017. He now threatened the pawn on h3. The guy tried to play king d2 to organize like counter chances along the g file. After rook f8 goes after the f2 pawn and the open file. Played like queen f6, bishop d8, over supporting the knight on g5. And after rook g1 played queen e6. Brilliantly played by black, king h7 just to over support the knight on g6 at some point, and after that he just took on h3. Everything was in time and Kuzubov was easily winning. While white did nothing on the queen side, white just grabbed this pawn, ideally like defended and protected all his pieces. This is like more like overprotection of all black pieces, and black eventually won. And now let's finally take a look at what most of strong GMs, including Giri, Mamedyarov, and all these top guys do against b4. So they play after bishop e2, bishop takes b4, bishop e5, watch out, they threaten pawn on g7, you play knight f6, e3 castles, knight f3, d5, bishop e2, and c5. I like this approach. It's approach where you care about like nice development and a pretty logical game on the king side once again. After castles, knight c6 threatened this bishop. Of course, no one is crazy enough to give it up. Bishop b2, and I opted for a move bishop a5. I very much like this plan by black, where the knight goes back, where the bishop goes back to c7 and prepares himself for the action onto the king side. A few days ago, I played a guy who's an IM and played against me bishop a3. He didn't want to allow me to bring my bishop back to c7 and organize the attack. I played b6 and he played d4. I played knight e4. Then I checked the game and I realized that there was a game between two German guys, Heinzel and Buddha, who played back like 40 years ago. And this guy played c4, and look what happened in the game. He kept the center, knight b4, rook c8. And if you take a closer look in this position, after queen g5, you just realize that the knight was hanging, bishop h3 was threatened, and black was lost. After bishop b4, bishop h3, g3, bishop b4, knight c6, he resigned after queen f6. So in another game, blood game of mine was d takes, b takes, and c4, you just do this d4 move. After e takes, I went with rook e8, and I got prepared for like, in case of d5, queen f6, because rook on a1 is hanging, and in case he goes with like d takes c5, same thing of course, he went with bishop d3, I played a nice move, bishop g4. I pinned his knight and the queen, I was threatening knight takes d4 as well, and let me just show you what happened in the game. When the guy captured, I did capture, he played like bishop c5, and you know what, I was like pretty much aware of the fact that I was 2 pawns down, but I really liked my bishop here and I liked my attacking chances, and I played rook f4 out of desperation, but it turns out to be absolutely nothing the best move here, and eventually I managed to win the game. So after like bishop b2, bishop b4, knight f6, castles, d5, c5, bishop a5, and people will usually go with d3. Those who play knight c3, you play rook e8, you have to play b6. Once again, they prevent this bishop c7 typical idea. You can take, play knight d4, and go with typical clearing in order to play queen g5 followed by bishop h3, but at the same time you also threaten bishop d7 going after this knight. You got a wide range of possibilities. You can also afterwards play after queen g5, b5 to sack that pawn and bring the bishop back to c7. You can play bishop d7 fighting against that knight on a4, but more importantly, I always look for the weak king with queen g5. And what happened in the game? After they play d3, we usually go bishop c7, knight bd2, rook e8, and c4 will be done by good players. Who are not good, he's going to give you like a pretty easy attacking like plans with bishop g4, queen d6, and so on. You can consider whether you want to play some d4 or not to close the bishop and to force them to play e4, which also has like its benefits with knight h5, knight f4, f5. But if they play c4, you have two approaches. The one that I don't play, but I like it equally, after d4, they take and go knight b3. It looks like you're about to lose, but after queen d6, I'll leave you this for home. You're just going to play bishop g4 and threaten some mating threats. In case of g3, you just go bishop e6. In case they take the pawn, you just go with knight takes d4 and bishop g4 and rook e2, for example, with lots of like attacking potential by black. Although I prefer taking on c4, playing bishop f5, going with like queen d7 or queen e7 and rook a d8. And if you ask me, this is just an ideal setup for black against Sokolsky, Polish, or Orangutan opening. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. I just gave you like 4 different plans. So what else do you want from me? Thank you for watching. Stay home, stay safe, and let's be together playing chess this coronavirus. All the best, guys. Bye-bye.